Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let Loose with Moose. Today I have one of the OGs. I have Grant from Blocmates. Hello Grant, how are you doing?
I'm good, Moose. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm always amazed when people actually want to talk to me. It's usually on the other side of the mic I'm usually sat.
No, I'm super honored to have you on, man. And of course, looking forward to the rest of the apes as well. So, I believe everyone already knows you, but could we just have a quick intro and background of yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Grant. I'm the founder of Blockmates. I probably shouldn't be in this industry. I went to kind of university to study. I was going to do a PhD in kind of cancer research and stem cells and all that
Wow.
kind of good stuff. That was actually going to make a difference, but now I'm just sat writing and trying to build this aspiring media company in crypto and a bit more particular in DeFi.
Awesome. Oh, but that's really cool, man. I didn't know you were like into science and stuff. Stem
Yeah, I should have
cells.
been. It's hilarious. Like my parents and friends had just looked at me and said, "What the hell are you doing? You've like worked all your life towards this." But now I think they kind of understand it.
Yeah. Must have been hard for them to accept this, right?
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
And you've been in crypto for quite a few years now, right? Could you
Yeah, it was.
share with us like your origin story or how you got started into crypto and all that? The stage
Yeah,
is all yours. Yeah.
it's very embarrassing, but it was whilst I think it's 2017, looking for things to do whilst at university, having no money. Did a bit of kind of spread betting or match betting, where you kind of arbitrage odds across peer-to-peer markets and traditional markets in on the sports book, and then stumbled upon Coinbase through a friend, and then thought I was an absolute genius. I was like, oh my god, this XRP token is like $3. If it goes to the price of Bitcoin, I'm going to be like a millionaire. So, literally bought the XRP top with way more of my student finance money than I should have. And then quickly had the decision to make whether just to kind of cut my losses or learn a little bit more about where I'd gone wrong, learn about the industry and try and dig myself out of the hole. So proceeded to do that. And, if it wasn't for, I've got a kind of soft spot for Chainlink, right? Because if it wasn't for Chainlink, I think I was getting to the point where I was just like completely dumbfounded about the market and how everything worked and just thought that it was over. And then a little thing called Chainlink and the Link token came along and kept me interested enough because it was the only thing moving. That and maybe like Ren. Ren moved a little bit at that time, if anyone remembers that. And that kept me interested enough to kind of get me through to probably like DeFi summer. And then shit started to get real.
Nice. And like at that point you were still taking your PhD, I believe.
Yeah, so I went on to do my masters, and then started really getting into the weeds in crypto. And at the same time, I was also looking at some of the PhD students who were coming in. So like if anyone works in like biology or they're working in a lab, if you're doing any experiment on cells like to be fed, and sometimes that fell over a weekend. And I really hated the idea that I had to go in over a weekend, particularly when like the football was on. And I went in, I just looked at everyone who's doing a PhD extremely miserable, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. So I went into biotech and biotech sales, and and after that I was a lot of work from home stuff, a lot of working on the road, and I was finding myself ever increasingly, for better or for worse, hopefully they'd never listen to this, that I was doing a lot more crypto research, writing, like anything to do, anything I get my hands on, as opposed to like doing actual work. So
Don't say that.
so decided to just kind of finish that off and just go full time, really.
Oh, nice. Wait, sorry, could I check like which year did you decide to go full time crypto instead of pursuing your studies?
So I think it was I think it was early 2021. So in the kind of midst of COVID, like me and my girlfriend at the time, now fiance, we kind of had a rush of blood to the head. Both came in really sick of work. She was doing like a really kind of frontline job, and I was kind of sat at home writing about DeFi whilst I was supposed to be at work. And we'd always wanted to travel as well, but it was like in the midst of COVID, and we were like, well, I think we both just had enough. And then we kind of there was this like short gap for like 4 weeks where you could actually get into Thailand. So we decided to quit our jobs, decided to hand back like the car of my dreams, tell my family I was going to Thailand in the middle of COVID because we wanted to travel. And I think I picked up where I wanted to kind of take Blockmates at the time. It was very, very early days. No one was reading, but I just kind of took a gamble on it, and I kind of got a good risk appetite. So we did that, and the rest is history, I think.
Awesome. Yeah, and I only got into crypto like late 2021, so it was after you turned full time when I first got my hands into crypto. Kind of crazy, man. So you're like the real OG to me.
Yeah, that's crazy because I look at the likes of Kobe's like one of the original OGs, and then like a couple of people who I remember from 2017, and there's a guy called Satoshi Flipper, if anyone's listening who knows him. I think he was I got influencer pumped into buying Link, but it was at like $1.50 or something. So I've got a lot to thank him for and a lot to kind of hate him for at the same time, I think.
Nice. And wait, so if I remember correctly, the first token that you bought was XRP and Chainlink?
Yeah, so XRP, and then like quickly ate a load of trading fees on Coinbase at the time, and was furiously trying to make stuff back, trading on like the consumer app of Coinbase, which still to this day charges an absolute fortune. And then quickly found my way over to Binance, and then as things fizzled out, and then Chainlink slowly came on the horizon, I've probably still got residuals of like really, really embarrassing residual balances in my Coinbase app that are more kind of embarrassing. Yeah, we'll call them memories. Probably more embarrassing than like someone's search history, like seeing loads of XRP in your wallet. But and then I think I can't remember what time that was when Link launched, but then like inevitably picked that up on Binance, and then just sat and kind of watched that thing. The first time you see money multiply like extremely quickly, it's it's a really strange thing because you don't know how to exit. When do you exit? You kind of buy into the community aspect of it, and I always tell people not to become a community participant of any project because you get like dazed and confused around what you should actually do, and you feel kind of guilt when you inevitably sell, and you probably sell a little bit too late. But yeah, there were like the rememberable early tokens, along with like some really horrendous ones that probably never made it out alive.
Awesome, nice. Thank you so much for sharing. It's really nice to hear like how you really got started. And next, I want to touch on how did you end up like starting Blockmates? So you mentioned that you were starting to write a little bit in early 2021 or like slightly before that, right? And how did Blockmates come about?
Yeah. So I'd like to say it was just because I wanted to have like a public good where people could read about what I've been up to, but I'm quite inherently lazy. So at the time I was kind of sick and tired of getting asked the same questions from kind of friends and close family and, people within the industry. It's like, oh, how does this work? How do you do this? How do you do that? Because you've got to think like DeFi summertime was crazy, hectic, and people were operating on particular dApps and on particular protocols that they just didn't have the first clue about. If you'd bought crypto prior to that, unless you were like truly in the weeds, you would probably just buy it on Binance and hold, no transporting it to like some cold storage or some shit. But when like Uniswap and DEX and lending and borrowing and yield farming and all that kind of stuff came out, it was great for someone who's like naturally curious, and I think people have to be, and I think that's one of the best traits you can have if you're going to be in this industry. But when you're getting peppered with questions all day, every day about like how you've done this, how you've done that, I just instinctively, I didn't want to go, I didn't feel comfortable enough to do any video or audio stuff. I still kind of don't to this day. But so I was just like, right, I'm just going to leverage everything I've learned and put it onto the page. And then you can, the beauty of a digital format is you do it once and it can be shared to as many people as physically possible. So that was, like, as I said, DeFi Summer Days, and didn't really formalize it until kind of like BSC started, like the whole BSC run started happening, and spun up like a really $20 a month website on Squarespace. And it was a lot of it then was basic how to onboarders, explainers, this is how you do this is how you do that, as I say, because a lot of it was to try and gain some time back from walking people through things. And like, if people actually, I can't imagine anyone listening to this was around that early, but particularly in the whole Blockmates thing, there was the website with explainers, there's a Telegram group, and there was actually, I was so stupid to put a free Calendly link on the website where random people from all over the world would just book like time in, where I just kind of talk them through stuff. And that quickly got tiring very, very quickly. But I'd like to think I'd played a part in getting a lot of people on chain in the early days. So, but never again.
Yeah, man, it's super nice. Like, it takes a lot of time and effort to sit down to talk to random strangers to kind of help them. And I think you're a really nice person to do that.
Yeah, if anyone knows who Shitcoin John is, like, he's one of my close friends from home. He like made bank off a lot of shitcoins, and at the time he was just like, "Why are you doing this? This is like you're just wasting your time. It's never gonna amount to anything." He didn't see like any of the value prop, and I didn't really at the beginning. I was just like, I don't know. I think something might come of it in the end, and you know, you just keep chugging away. And like with anything, I think if no. Your initial kind of plans around what you want something to be will be so far removed from what it actually turns out to be in the end. So I think I'm always one for just like starting something and see where it leads, because I think like perfection is basically just procrastination in a different form, and I'm always more about action and then figure it out and break shit and then like iterate on the top of it. So yeah, It was weird to think back that was actually a thing, but I kind of respect it in some instances, but I'll never get that time back.
Yeah, and you've grown a lot since then, right? And I believe it definitely helped that you did what you did in the beginning that kind of helps you get to where you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is the account, like the main Twitter account is actually the second account, because I was such an idiot of when I was mentioned earlier at the beginning of the chat where we moved to Thailand. The original Blockmates account was on a 2FA phone from the UK, and I didn't update I didn't update that. So if anyone's listening and they value their account, just go into the basic housekeeping, because losing an account is really, really tough to kind of get yourself off the ground and, you know, work it back up. I think it's just happened to Stephen, you know, the calculator guy. And you can see him kind of trying to run his account back up, but it's an awful lot of work. So yeah, it's been a long old slog, but we're slowly getting there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are huge already, man. I believe it's definitely painful. I believe I haven't gone through that, right? I hope I don't, but I would like to imagine that it's really, really painful to go through that, and I hope never like anyone has to go through it. The calculator guy, right? I saw, so I've been trying to get him back on, like, to spread the word, right? To get him on his new account. I saw you guys done it as well.
Yeah, man, Steven's such a good guy. Like
He is.
You know when you just get a feeling, and like I've spoke to him, interviewed him, and shared some ideas and things like that in the past, but you just know his kind of heart's in the right place with everything. And I think when you're creating content, there's a very, very fine line from which some people take advantage of, and there's also a basket of people who are just generally wanting to create and help elevate other people and try and just create the best content that's possible. So there's a very, very fine line that you have to kind of stick to. And Steven's one of the guys that you just have to respect, like the thing that he's built with DeFi Dojo and stuff like that, and the amount of people he must have helped and onboarded and just shared valuable information. Like it's sad to see, but he'll get back there. It's just only a matter of time.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, the dojo and definitely a lot of helpful stuff in there. And moving on to the next topic. So as Blockmates, right, you guys read a lot. You guys do a lot of research. Could we hear a little bit more about your research process?
Yeah, so it's definitely changed over the last 18 months or so, but just for the sheer amount of volume and quality, hopefully, that we churn out. It originally was just me, right? And then it slowly started to ramp up, and then there was just so much happening, and you can't be everywhere at once, and you also can't be an expert at everything. So it was then just looking for who can we bring on to help with the research, with the writing. And it was really, I wouldn't say it was difficult to find writers, but if anyone's read any of the stuff or listened to any, we don't exactly take ourselves very seriously, and I think that's kind of one of the value props. And the most difficult part was delivering the information in the same tone as what's came before it. So like kind of not skipping any detail, not skipping any depth, like having it as really to the point as physically possible, but trying to make it as lighthearted and enjoyable to read at the same time. So it wasn't the point of getting good writers. There was so many good writers that I felt kind of bad to say no to, but sometimes when they were chatting stuff back, it was like a little bit dry. But like if it was for Mazzari or Delphi, it probably would have been like fantastic, you know. But basically, our kind of philosophy is write about and try and commentate on stuff that you think people should be aware of, that you'd like. Always trying to be heavy due diligence, because one wrong project can kind of really tarnish your brand reputation.
Yeah.
And trying to be not trying to be first. It's nice if we're first, and I hope, like, compared to some like media outlets, that we're probably one of the first to commentate on certain stuff. But you know, just like, I think it also comes across a bit disingenuous if you can kind of tell people are just writing about stuff for the sake of it, or kind of doing it for engagement. And we've tried to like steer away from that as much as possible. And just trying to deliver like as much of the in-depth information as physically possible that's really kind of actionable, that doesn't kind of skip over and assume that the reader knows some of the jargon that's in the industry, because I think that's a bit of a barrier to entry for a lot of people. And then you know, just bringing it in, does it fit the tone of all the articles that have came before it? Is it on brand? Like all the points covered in there? And yeah, we'll get stuff wrong time to time. It's just part and parcel of creating that sheer amount of volume. But and then yeah, just spinning it up, getting it on the site and getting it released.
And I really like that you guys have the motto of DeFi that your dad can understand, right? Like you're trying to really break it down to simple terms so that regular people can understand. I think that's really nice.
Yeah.
And I have a question, since you talked about you guys having multiple writers now, right? Like yourself, you have Jedi, then you have like 563 who went on recently on an episode with me as well. Do you guys implement a framework across everyone so that you guys are kind of aligned when you're writing research articles, or do you kind of have your own little style for each writer?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's a question that a lot of people from the outside looking in wouldn't even assume was a thing, but it really, really is. So there's, for anyone who like wants to contribute or come on board, obviously we're always looking for good writers that can deliver the information in the kind of quote unquote Blockmates way. Like, that's a bit corny and cringy, but like that's the way we look at it. And that's why it's been whittled down to the likes of Emery, 563, Brown Bacon, Ollie, like KG. And there's a few that they get it. And what I also think it does, right, is if you can explain something to someone in a way that an average person should be able to comprehend it, it also makes sure that you understand what you're saying as well. Because there's been numerous times where I've went to write like a thesis or an idea or like just trying to get it onto the page, and then I write it down and I'm like, shit, is that actually right? So I really have to check my understanding to it. And I also think if anyone's recently coming into the space and they're like, how do you kind of digest so much information? How do you get like raise your own level of understanding about the space? Like writing or even recording yourself doing stuff puts this kind of inherent pressure and internal pressure on yourself to make sure you do actually understand what you're talking about. And I think it's a bit of a growth hack. So even if we didn't have like this platform, media company, whatever you want to call it, I'd probably just do it for my own benefit anyway, just getting the words onto the page and just trying to churn it out. But for the rest of the team, when they're writing stuff, yeah, there's always that. It's not like a strict adherence. It's just always just try and deliver something that you'd actually want to read. There's so many. What I would hate more than anything is if you were reading something and you didn't know it was from us, like as it came from Bankless, as it came from Mazzari, as it came from Delphi. Between the three of them, you wouldn't know. But there should be like a specific tonality that are delivered in the articles, the newsletter, maybe even the podcast because we're so unprofessional about it. But people should know that it's it should have a certain kind of motif or a twang to it that they know it's come from our camp effectively. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. So you guys, actually we're kind of aligned there. So like the path that we're taking is the unprofessional path.
Yeah. It's like we had a tagline of for apes by apes, and yeah, I don't know which one I prefer more, but yeah, it's like I think like there's too many people in the industry that just take everything way too seriously, and I haven't left a very professional industry to come and do the exact same thing in a different environment. You know, I just like want people to enjoy what they're doing. I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I wouldn't do like 12 to 16 hours every single day if I didn't. So you know, that has to kind of resonate across a brand, and that's not a manufactured thing where if you got this marketing agency and said, oh, this is what you need to do to be kind of personable and like likable, and like it should be like, if you look at kind of what would be a good example, like Barstool Sports, like Dave Portnoy just does what he wants to do, and like people like him for it. And I think it's the way that we deliver stuff is the way it is because we kind of don't know any other way, to be honest. Like we're never going to be like an extremely overproduced, extremely polished. Because I don't really like to digest stuff like that, like podcasts that are like really, really overproduced, and I just feel like it's a bit, you know, I feel like they're trying to pull the wool off my eyes a little bit. I like really organic conversations like you do here, and you know, I just like want to churn out stuff that I'd actually want to listen to or digest myself.
Awesome. Yeah, I prefer not to do scripted stuff. I kind of have a few topics in mind, but kind of go along with depending on what your answer are, right? Then you can just go down that path.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way. I think that's the only way. Like, you can tell if a conversation's not genuine.
Yeah.
And we've had like certain. I'm not going to name any names, but we've had certain guests where they've came with these kind of pre-packaged questions, and you say this, then we say that, and I've just said no. This is not happening. This is not like NPR or like Planet Money or whatever. That's some shit. It's
right.
Like, how hard is it just to have a conversation? It's really not that difficult.
Yeah. And I do think like it gives a certain plus point in my opinion if the project founders or whoever you're speaking to, they can just go right off the bat. Like they have the things all in their head, right? Like they don't have to go and memorize a script or refer to some materials. It's all in their head, and that's when they are really good.
Yeah, and like I always feel like if they try prepare questions or whatever shit they're up to, I just always feel like there's an angle or like there's a motive for that. And I'm definitely not going to be the like puppet that allows them to just spout off this kind of paraphrased line that they've kind of worked on for weeks, Mark. I just just don't do it. Anyone listening, please don't do that.
All right. And moving back towards the question of your research process, right? I believe you go through a lot of things. So my question to you would be, what would you consider your best source of information?
That's a good one. I mean, is depending on at what stage of the product or project it is, you can go different places to get the best source of information. If it's live, like the easiest place is to go straight to the source. One, try it out yourself. Two, check what's actually happening with contracts. Three, check what's actually happened with holders, users, LPs. What's happening with vesting. Just go direct to the source. You can kind of get away with going to project documents, but sometimes they're a little bit biased. So, and one thing I do really love about this industry, and one of the things that I'm pretty sure we benefit from is, I've said this on a podcast before, I think with Nick Drake on, is people just like building an account to try and just build up the numbers for some kind of vanity perspective just doesn't make any sense. There's so much you can leverage from that. If you can get into a founder's messages or get them on a call or get in Discord and know you're going to get a response because they've got some perception that you're, I don't know, some sort of personality in the space, which is couldn't be further from the truth. That is usually such a like an asset to have. If you can get a founder on the call and actually dissect them and have a conversation with them, if it's on camera, even better, because you can kind of judge by body language and just kind of get a read on people if they're full of shit or if they're actually, like a good person trying to do the right thing. So going as close to the source of the information as physically possible is always good. At the other side of that argument, I also don't believe that the phrase, if it's already on Twitter, it's too late. Sometimes I don't think that's true at all. For some stuff, yes, it certainly is, and some stuff's extremely coordinated. And if people see what went on behind the scenes with some of these groups that people get thrown in, it's extremely coordinated and very, very transparent in my opinion. But like the best source of information is just being curious, just trying everything out. Sometimes just by being curious and trying to get over to somewhere where people wouldn't want to look is like the most alpha you could ever derive from anything. And I think you sometimes inherently just pick up what's good and what's a bit rubbish. So I think the best source of information, as I say, close to the source as possible, but the only way to get that is just by being naturally curious, I think.
Awesome. And I actually like that you mentioned that it depends on the stage of the product that we're talking about, right? Like if it's live, go check out their product. If it's not, then like go dig in their docs or like just check it out from other sources, right? And I also really agree with the point you mentioned where you had a chat with Nick. I do remember hearing that portion where he said, where you're kind of a figurehead, you are known as more legit, right? And you get this access, this opportunity to talk directly to the founders, which I do agree that is definitely a huge advantage.
But also, the right founders and the good founders will speak to anyone. Who we have on the other day? Like the Loris from Insert Finance. They do more customer outreach than any project in this space, in my opinion. They will like jump on a call with someone who might have 3 followers on Twitter. Like, not that that's a be all and end all of everything, but if they were using that as a litmus test to kind of, are these actually going to be beneficial as a user? Those guys don't care. They want to get on a call. They want to figure it out. So I'm not saying it for the sake of it's a kind of secret weapon that you hold up your sleeve if you've got a larger account. Excuse me. But the right founders will be responsive and will be receptive. And that's kind of it's a bit of a weird kind of thing to pick up on, but the right founders are really responsive to everyone, and they don't just kind of look for people who might have influence and benefit their pockets and project, I think.
Yeah, but on that point, I do think like it might be hard to differentiate who are the trollers and who are those who are genuinely interested in the project. Like you mentioned you did that Calendly open for all at the start, right? And it's really exhausting. So if I were to imagine a project founder doing that, it's gonna be like my question would be, is that the best use of his time instead? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think particularly with if you have Discord set up properly as well, and maybe a few kind of bits of gating around who can actually get into Discord, and then you were running kind of quite frequent like workshops or town halls and things like that. I think that's it's a way to kind of leverage everyone to be in the same place, and particularly if you're recording it as well. But yeah, I think just like constant communications is always a good sign. If what I always find as well is like during really bad times, particularly times of crisis, communications in this space are really, really terrible. So, if founders can kind of deliver consistent information that is not kind of full of pumponomics and announcements of announcements, it's usually a good signal in my opinion.
Nice. Yeah, I do think it's a good idea. Like, you can just do weekly or bi-weekly calls in your Discord where people can come in and just pop on the stage towards the end to ask questions. I think that might be a better time allocation than going to individual calls with like 100 different people, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And all right, now let's talk about your opinion on the markets now, moving towards the end of this year and moving into next year. Where do you see the markets going?
My heart says up. My head says I don't have a clue. I'm like eternal optimist bull, but I just can't get a read on it at all. Like it's hilarious that we're only correlated to traditional markets to the downside, so we've kind of missed on like a really great roaring S&P and Nasdaq and like AI baskets running and tech recovering and things like that. And I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, we definitely had a bounce, but nothing to the extent of what's been happening in equities and things like that. So I honestly don't know. I don't want to sit here and say this is what we're going to do. This is not what we're going to do. I just really like to just play it as I see it and as it comes. But at this point in time, I just have no read on it whatsoever. But always got a bull cap on. So hopefully that comes true for once.
Yeah. Could I say that you're kind of still invested, or would you say that you're kind of more towards the sideline right now?
Oh yeah, I'm always just fully invested. this is partly my downfall. Like, I'm kind of that meme where I think there's like a rotator meme where he's never held a stable coin for longer than 10 minutes. But I'm always dabbling, always kind of trying stuff out. Maybe a bit extreme, saying 10 minutes, but I like to have a position, even if it just doesn't skew completely bullish, like try and get a little hedge in there as well. But yeah, I always like to have something open, something to do, and
itchy fingers.
Itchy fingers.
Right. And you mentioned the topic of always trying something out, which brings to my mind something that's new, something that you have been trying out recently. It starts with F.
You're gonna embarrass me now, aren't you?
No. So I'm actually not in your Friendtech group. So you want to share a bit more about that? I've seen you posting quite a lot about it.
Yeah. The Blockmates Incorporated Corporation, the shareholders in there. No, it's I think it's quite fascinating, and I don't even think the product itself of trading shares is the impressive part. I think it's the semi-abstraction away from DeFi complexities that makes it interesting. So the whole idea that you could download it from the website, save it to your homepage, strikes up a wallet that's powered by Privy, which is kind of an account abstraction wallet provider, being able to load up on Base and then just operate directly off the phone. That's equally as impressive, if not more impressive, than the idea you could just dump a load of BitBoy shares, I think. But yeah, and like towards like a larger thesis around end of 2024 into 2024, it's for me, all I'm looking at is whose sole focus is onboarding. And I know, like, I can imagine the Uniswap wallet is going to do extremely well for onboarding if they can implement some form of gasless transaction on there as well, just to remove that confusion of, I want to buy the next shitcoin, I don't have ETH, why is it telling me I need ETH? I think they'll be able to do that, particularly with Uniswap X as well. A lot of, is it like synthetics are coming out with Infinex. So I'm definitely playing Friendtech as like a shitcoin casino. But the part I'm really interested in is it being mobile first and it semi-removing complexities of onboarding, because I think developers are sick of the same 50 people using the apps, and they want to kind of cut through the noise and into the realms of what could potentially be possible. So that's why I'm kind of interested in it. But I love the kind of shit posting on Friendtech as well.
I get what you mean on the removing part of the complexities, because like you mentioned, the gasless transaction and then being mobile first, right? But then I also think that it might not be as convenient to, let's say our parents, right? Because they still have to set up a MetaMask or a Rabby wallet, and then they have to load their funds in there, and from there they have to transfer funds onto Friendtech, which I don't really think it's that convenient as of right now, right? We're not sure how they can improve on this in future, but I really don't think that it's super convenient to new users. To us, I think it's relatively convenient. Like, you don't have to sign an additional transaction or something, pay extra gas. But yeah, that's my kind of take on it right now.
Yeah, I mean, what I can imagine will happen is, and I've already seen them tweeting about it, but Coinbase will use this as a great excuse to push their self-custody wallet and make the onboarding process to Base with ETH as seamless as physically possible. I could probably see them implementing gasless transactions as well. And there's a provider, like an on-ramp provider called OnRamper, like really inventive name, that it's kind of like on-ramp aggregator. And so you could start off from any fiat currency, and you effectively tell them what asset you want on what chain, and then they'll find the best on-ramp provider from fiat to crypto. And you tell it awesome. Like the destination address. So, and I know these guys, are working with a lot of these kind of products that I wanted to head to mobile first, or just kind of, just remove a couple of the steps away, which I think is drastically needed. So I'm really optimistic about where we're heading and getting to the point of, as you say, like our parents, or like I've seen people complaining that no one's going to use it because it's too confusing because he has to use a bridge. Like, we probably take it a little bit for granted because we're still hobbyists and tinkerers. And particularly if you're left now in the space, you're definitely a hobbyist and tinkerer because, all the people who came for the money are gone. So you probably take for granted how much of a pain in the arse it is to actually navigate around DeFi. And I think we'll probably look back in 5 years and think, how the hell did we actually manage to do that? So like I'm cautiously optimistic about where the space is going to bring in the next however many users. And you got to think that Coinbase have got over 100 million verified users. Like, God knows how many people are left. Like, it's really difficult to assess active accounts, isn't it? Because you might have 10, 20, 30 wallets and you might use a couple of them like over the course of a week or whatever. So it's really difficult to assess how many people are left. Friendtech could be a kind of good indication of who's left, who's willing to actually operate. But yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction. And apparently, all the conferences this year have been about account abstraction. I think there's probably a lot of kind of mental masturbation going on there, and people trying to find the best EIP to actually implement that and all that kind of stuff. But what really matters at the end of the day is getting it into people's hands and getting people to use it, and not having them worry about having to have ETH to pay gas and why they need to, and why they've sent ETH from base to Arbitrum and it hasn't landed, and all that kind of stuff that we know and just take for a second nature. And like anything we can get towards a time where it's chain agnostic and chain abstracted away, then I think we're going to be in a good place.
Yeah, totally. I think it'd be super great if like you could just I don't know, like top up your wallet from your bank account or something, and then everyone just, it's a one-off thing, and then everyone kind of just uses your wallet on from then on. It'd be great. I mean, we're definitely not there yet,
top
right?
Up with that. Yeah, top up with Apple Pay or Google Pay or like some shit, and it just you got ETH that lands in your
exactly
Friendtech account.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it that way, right? Like if Apple Pay or Google Pay just kind of accepts or like adopts Ethereum as a payment, and I think that will really bring the adoption rate a lot higher because everyone's already using it and it's so seamless.
The cartel of the App Store cartel and the Android cartel. It's like, but what is also encouraging, you've seen the Uniswap wallet, you've seen Axie Infinity get approved. I'm pretty sure there's something else quite recently as well. So that you can see they're definitely warming to the idea. And if Apple just go, yeah, fuck it, let's allow it, then Android obviously have to cave as well because they're not going to miss out on any of that revenue. But the only issue is like their 30% tax or whatever it is for in-app purchases. One, how are they going to enforce that? And two, like who foots the bill for that? Because protocols aren't very profitable at present when they don't have to pay 30% tax. NFT kind of whoever's selling NFT is not going to pay like a 30% tax on top of that, on top of 5% royalty or whatever it is. So it's a bit of a funky one, but I don't know. I'm sure it'll get resolved.
Definitely something interesting. Oh, and speaking of that, so I'm based in Singapore, right? And today something interesting happened. So McDonald's Singapore actually just released one of their NFT collectibles this afternoon, and it was actually so easy to mint one because you just go into the McDonald's app, you tap into that collectibles page, and then you kind of link your MetaMask to it, and you just click mint, and they cover the gas, and it's a free mint. So it was actually, I'm not sure. I didn't read into it. I think it was Polygon. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was Polygon. So I think that is one step moving forward, right? That it's something that we are moving towards, and yeah, who knows what we can see from now on. So kind of like you just need to have a MetaMask account. You don't even need to have money in there, not even for gas. Like no Ethereum, no nothing at all. So it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's Gelato who can provide gasless transactions, and the protocol can also opt to subsidize the gas. So one, it could be like using something like Gelato to enable a specific like gasless mint, and then the actual underlying protocol has like a reserve of ETH to actually pay for the transactions, and they have the contracts to allow that to happen. So when I interviewed him probably 6 months ago, I was just like, yeah, it's just shit like that, you know. It's just think a little bit more ahead. It's there or it's on the horizon, and it's, you know, if imagine McDonald's said, oh yeah, but you have to have Matic in your wallet to mint that.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, what? There'd be like 3 people who minted it.
Yeah, the collection was the collection size was 2,000, and it was gone in like I think 10 minutes or something. Super quick. Yeah. And I think this like it was one of the iconic characters, and they're probably gonna release a few more for the entire set or something. But yeah, all right. We've been chatting for quite a bit. I want to move on to get to know a little bit more about you, Grant. Move away from more the Blockmates side or the crypto side. Let's hear about your daily routine, or like could you share a day in the life of Grant?
Yeah, for sure. So, morning, probably get up 7:30. So I've got 4 dogs at the minute.
Wow.
Because there's technically 12 we've rescued, but like you can't have more than 4. Well, we've got 6 in the house, but the 2 of them are puppies. So we take those 4 to the beach, go for a walk, get a coffee, wake up, have like a bit of a slow morning, try to go to the gym because I'm getting really fat and I'm getting married in October and I need to get my suit.
Hey, congrats.
Thanks. Then get back, have some food, and then probably start like 11 a.m. my time. I'm based in Asia myself at the minute, and then it's quite nice. I think I really like not having to get up and get out of bed and then just hit a meeting or like start work. I really love the idea that I can have like a bit of a slow morning and then wait for like Europe and the US to come, like markets to start, and then everyone come online. So then probably work through till 11, 12 o'clock, maybe a bit late, depending if we've got any meetings or podcasts in the US, and get up and do it all again. But I'm really strict on taking weekends off, and I like tell the team that they're not allowed to do anything on the weekends, but you often catch Jerry
nice.
shit posting. Weekends are just for shit posting, and they're not for anything else, because I think like burnout is really easy to come by, particularly when you're working long hours. And the last thing I'd want is to get out of bed and just like dread the rest of my day. Had that in a previous profession, and there's no worse feeling, you know. And it's sometimes because you just feel a little bit trapped and you're just like in this Groundhog Day environment where you're doing the same thing over and over again. But yeah, really strict on weekends, trying to switch off. The occasional shit post comes out, but that's kind of, I suppose that's a week in the life of me.
Nice. And what about like some of your hobbies and short-term or long-term goals for yourself, or even for Blockmates brand?
Yeah, hobbies. I haven't really had time to do anything aside from
What?
look after the dogs, go to the gym, and then occasionally see friends on the weekend. But I've recently started playing paddle, and I don't want to sound like one of those idiots who picks up a sport and just like tries to like throw it on top of everyone. But paddle is like such a sick game. I'm really bad at it, but it's so sick. I'm actually playing tomorrow.
Wait, paddle is a sport?
Yeah, so it's best way to kind of think about it is, right, so it's a racket sport where it's probably around 3/4 the size of a tennis court, and then the back wall and the sides are squash walls, so you can play it off the back wall, you can play it off the side, and it's like a doubles game. But it's
Oh, nice.
I think it's like the fastest growing sport in Europe. And you can kind of see why, because you can be absolutely terrible at it like me, and still think you're amazing.
Nice. I just went to Google it. Yeah, it looks pretty much like tennis.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's no. I guarantee there's a court near you. I guarantee there's a court in Singapore. So that, and I suppose goals for Blockmates is, I just want it to be the biggest media company in crypto.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's kind of
like,
the end goal for you.
yeah. I'm too stupid to stop as well. Like I don't know when enough's enough. So like we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Like we want to just get that to ridiculous levels, because I think if we tackle it from the perspective of just trying to be as honest and hold as much integrity as possible, but deliver like content that people actually want to read or listen to or watch, then I don't think there's a lot of competition. I think a lot of the competition is kind of incumbents of Mazzari and maybe Delphi, and if Bankless are the best media outlet we've got in this space, then we've done something wrong as an industry. So yeah, we're coming to take over.
Nice, awesome. Rooting for you, man.
Thanks.
Right, and I just kind of had a random thought. I wasn't planning to ask this. You guys are doing a meetup in Singapore, Token 2049.
Yes.
Are the details out yet? Could you share them? Or
So, what can I say? I think it's going to be the Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'll get you some tickets, Moose.
yay! Thanks.
It's not going to be a little. It's not going to be a little event, and you might see some familiar faces who are yet to launch, but it's going to be a big one when they do. So there's around 4 or 5 people who are hosting it and sponsoring it. We're doing it with the Flywheel guys. That's one of the other kind of hosts, but I think by the time this is out, the details will be out, so I'll send you them over. But you send me your details, and however many tickets you need, and we'll get you on it. But it's going to be a good one. Awesome. I can't wait. There's so many people I just haven't met prior.
It's kind of like my first event to meet so many people as well. So super excited.
Yeah, it was Singapore last year was great because like it was Token 2049. It was like a really bad time in the market, and if you'd have dropped someone there and said, "Are we in a bull market or a bear market?" but they couldn't look at TradingView. They'd have thought we were in like the biggest bull market of all time. Everyone was just so optimistic, and I was like, "Yeah, we need to go lower. We're too bullish."
That's kind of an idea, man. Like, just go around during the event and ask, "Are you bullish or bearish?"
Yeah, we need a big flush.
All right. Let us wrap this up soon. So, could you share with us what is your greatest takeaway from being in crypto?
Yeah, the greatest takeaway from being in crypto is the fact that anonymous and pseudo-anonymous people banding together on Telegram and Discord can create billion-dollar companies. And the traditional way of working, being suited and tied and being on time for this specific meeting and having 45 meetings a day and having all these specific KPIs and just being completely by the book isn't always the right way to do shit. Yeah, we can definitely mature as an industry, we definitely grow up when we need to at times, but the idea that just anonymous people band together on these kind of open source projects and just make shit happen is like always fascinating to me, and will never cease to amaze me, I think.
Awesome. I mean, I'm not sure on the being punctual for meetings because you were pretty punctual earlier. In fact, you were early.
I think I was more getting at just the endless amount of meetings where you sit and no one actually gets anything done, and it's just like, why are we here? Could this not have been a text?
Yeah, imagine like your whole day is filled with meetings, and then at the end of the workday you actually did nothing except sit in meetings. It's kind of a waste of time sometimes. Yeah,
I think people like to look busy or perceive, like, give off the air of them being busy at times, and I just don't get it.
Awesome. And my last question to you, could you give me 3 names for future guest nominations to come on the pod? And you can't name the other 2 apes, right? Because I'm going to get them on after you.
All right, so I can't name those. So I think Andrew Saunders would be a good one. From Hashflow, previously Arbitrum. That guy's an absolute legend. Who would be good? SBF.
From jail.
Yeah. You know who'd be a good interview, and I think you'd do a good, and it wouldn't necessarily have to be around the project that they're releasing, but Matt from Tapioca, he's just got so many good stories and anecdotes and like ways he looks at the market and ways he thinks about it. And sometimes it gets lost because he's constantly talking about tapioca. But if you can actually sit him down for like 1 hour and like just pick his brain on stuff, he's such a good character to be around.
That sounds
So I
nice.
nominate Matt. I nominate Andrew Saunders. He's just an absolute legend. And just trying to think of a third one. Have you had Ouroboros Capelon?
No, I have not actually. I've seen them in they've been quite active recently in a lot of projects, but that would be
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
he's absolute legend. He's got a good team there as well. I think they'll probably be at Token 24/9 as well. But yeah, there's three good guests.
nice.
I'd like to listen. I'd like to listen to those three.
Awesome. And it's a really good nominations. I do look forward if I do get a chance to speak to them as well. Um, yeah, and thank you so much. That kind of wraps up everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for your time. Before we go off, do you have anything that you want to talk about that maybe we didn't touch on?
Uh no, just yeah. Thanks very much for having me. As I say, I'm always amazed when people actually want to ask me shit. I don't find myself that interesting, but yeah, I really appreciate it. And if anyone's at Token 2049, hopefully we'll have space for the event. But if not, what I think we're going to do as well is just say we're here at this specific time and just get some beers in for everyone. And yeah, just let us know. We'll be about.
Nice, sick. All right. Once again, thank you so much, Grant, for taking the time to come on, and thank you to the listeners who are tuning into this episode. You guys already know Blockmates, but if you don't, you can check them out in the links in the description below, and we will see you next episode. That brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Before you go, do remember to give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you never miss a thing. Comment down below what you liked about this episode, who you would like me to interview next, or any topics that you want to learn more about. Until next time, this is Moose moving out.